Recording in progress.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, March 31st, 2026. It's 2:03 p.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. To my right, Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier, Commissioner Carolina Mejia. To my left, Commissioner Rachel Grant and Commissioner Emily Faust. County Manager Leonard Hernandez and Assistant County Managers Joshua Cummings and Jennifer Walker. That's for the Board of Davis. First up, we're going to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Mejia.
If you'll please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Land acknowledgement is next, Mr. Vice Chair.
We'd also like to start today with a land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge and thank the indigenous Salish peoples whose elders and ancestors have lived on and stewarded the lands and waterways of this county with great care, and who continue as sovereign nations today, specifically the Squaxin, Nisqually, and Chehalis people. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. The purpose of this acknowledgement is to disrupt ongoing erasure of injustices done and to remember history as a stepping stone towards healing. We commit to working together to honor our past and build our future with truth.
Thanks, sir. Next, we have approval of agenda.
I move to approve the agenda with the amendment of moving item 11, contract extension with City of Rainier, under department items.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda with the change of having item 11 as a department item. Discussion on the motion?
Yeah, just to clarify, the agenda that you have in front of you does not have that change.
I understand that. That's why we're taking that up and having discussion on a motion right now.
Can I just ask, and it's okay if you don't wanna respond, but is there, I didn't hear this morning, is there a reason that you're making the change now? I'm okay with it, I just was curious.
I'll talk about it under department items, but I've just voiced concerns about contracts over the last month, so
Okay,
if you're gonna pass it, I would wanna make my statement again.
okay, sounds good.
Okay, any other discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Agenda is approved as amended. Public comment related to items that are on today's agenda. I have 3 folks signed up. And then when those folks, I'll call for anyone who maybe has a time constraint and can't wait. We should be getting, I think, in fairly short order to the general public comment. But first up is Henry Valls. You're on the agenda, but I can move you. Okay, very good. Barry Halverson. Okay, let me go through the guidelines, sir. Sorry. Board of County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public. There are guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate. When called, introduce yourself in the area of the county in which you reside. State the agenda item you are speaking to for this piece of the public comment. Address the board, not audience or staff. Silence your cell phones. The board does not directly respond to public comment, but the county manager may follow up with specific items on an as-needed basis. Speakers will have 3 minutes to address the board and may not donate any of that speaking time to another speaker. Please be respectful. The board reserves a right to restrict a person's opportunity to address the meeting for good cause. No comments that are lewd, offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in nature. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business. Please withhold remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could eventually come before the board on appeal. No electioneering comments, and public records, written materials can be considered a public record and subject to release upon request. Thank you for your cooperation. Mr. Halverson, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, Commissioners, I am Barry Halverson, Co-Chair of the Lake Lawrence Lake Management District. Today, I'm here to request your support for approval of Agenda Item Number 5, Ordinance creating Lake Lawrence Lake Management District Number 26. If you follow the Nisqually Valley News, you'll see our 4th item is another update on the Lake Lawrence Lake Management District published in the 26 March edition of the Nisqually Valley News. We've been doing this regularly as we've moved through the process. Currently, we are on step 9 of 12, so you're gonna see me again a couple times. The members of the Lake Lawrence Lake Management District spoke loud and clear in July of 2025 when over 38% of landowners by LMD members signed the petition to establish the LMD. This was the largest margin of any LMD so far in the county. Their voices again resonated at the public hearing on 20 January when over 60 submitted written testimony and 6 testified in person. The ballots counted on 12 March 2026 provided the most significant approval of renewal of the LMD in its history, with 249 members voting, 210 for, and only 39 against. The weighted votes were 79,155 for, and only 8,581 against, or a 90% approval for the LMD renewal. This ordinance moves the process to the final public hearing for rolls and rates on 5 May 2026, where those being assessed will have the opportunity to state why they should not be charged the assessment established by the LMD Steering Committee, and a resolution confirming the role of assessment for Lake Lawrence Lake Management District number 26. Again, I always end with, I want to thank you for your interest in keeping our lakes clean and healthy and supporting the lake management districts in Thurston County. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Halverson. Mr. Pettit, you're next.
Good afternoon. I'm John Pettit from Rich Road. My public comment is actually really interesting in terms of not often I would agree necessarily with certain things, but Mr. Fournier brought out an important topic. You know what? Consent agenda is not for approval of contract and everything. The question is when you have something on the consent agenda, have you already made a decision? If you've already made a decision and voted to put it on the consent agenda as a voting process, you're violating the entire open meeting process of allowing a time frame for citizen participation to participate and make comments about topics. The concept of having this meeting is open dialogue and opportunity for the public to make comment. So I guess in short on this, my comment's going to be a consent agenda. I can understand when you're given, for instance, a voucher list. That's pretty simple. We can put that on the consent agenda. You can choose to have it taken off, but it's not something that you have to mutually agree upon a contract balance or any other element. And because this is kind of one of these interesting topics, because for some reason, we no longer seem to have a board of county commissioners that actually goes through a list that's open for public comment. We just get this list of, okay, you guys just approve my list and then we're done. It's not how it's supposed to work. It violates the Open Public Meeting Act. And I will encourage you to take all contracts that are being approved off the list. I would encourage you to take all approval of ordinances off the list. Things that are entitled to a public comment should in fact be under actions that would be handled by various offices and points. Now, if you want to continue to not follow the law, Open Public Meeting Act, I guess you're going to continue. I'm going to suggest you do a little reading that the MRSC has written some papers regarding you are not to come here and just approve something you've already approved. That is not what this is for. You're not to do it. Take a look at it, revise your method of operation, and actually I'm giving the thumbs up to Mr. Fournier for bringing up the topic about making a contract with a consent agenda. Thank you.
Those are the signups I had. Is there anyone else who needs to give comment, has a pressing need to give comment in this particular period? Mr. Ballard? Because they need to leave the meeting would be the reason.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Terry Ballard, and I'm a resident of unincorporated Thurston County, better known as Tanglewild. I see that you took item 11 off the list as far as a sheriff's office providing more than likely a sheriff to an incorporated city, which I believe is just cause. But there again, we have a sheriff that has a sheriff's building bought and paid for by you guys without authorization of the year before. And a sheriff is supposed to be in the county seat or at the county seat as per RCW 36.28.160, and Tumwater is clearly outside the county seat. And you are supposed to provide him a space in the courthouse as per RCW 3616.090. Clearly, that building that you bought without any authorization of the year before should be going against your bond. As far as the Open Public Meeting Act that he was representing, and you are clearly outside the county seat here, as the county seat was established in 1861 and never, ever put a vote by the people of Thurston County to widen that county seat. The Open Public Meeting Act that he was referring to is RCW 36.32.080. And by the way, I gave this to the clerk, and she'll be giving it to you. That's the timeline of everything. And these are the regulations or RCWs and Washington State Constitution and 2 court cases and Attorney General opinions that you're all violating to be here. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Any other public comment before we close this period? We don't see anybody online. All right, next up is item 3, County Manager update.
Thank you, Chair. The update today wanted to talk about the Resource Hubs, their 2025 year in review. The Resource Hub is, I think, one of the items that the county does that really brings together a lot of our services to those that are in need of it, sometimes the most. In 2025, the county's Resource Hub served over 1,039 people. 75% of those served were ages 25 through 54 years old. 24% are parents and 39% are self-reported that they are unhoused. Visitors were connected with healthcare and mental health care providers and recovery support through partners like Providence, Molina, and others. They were also provided grab-and-go snacks and weekly food supplies in partnership with Thurston County Food Bank. I know that we have our director, Carrie Hennon, here, and just want to give a special thanks to her leadership and the staff and all the partners that come together in the Resource Hub. I remember the first time that I toured it, it was before it actually expanded. The director said, we kind of walked around and she said, well, keep on, there's not much else, Leonard. It's just like right here. And to realize how much service and how much impact they were making in such a small space because of the dedication and the commitment that they have is substantial. And I think it would be remiss not to mention just a special thanks to Carrie Hennon and their team, because in the recent budget conversation that we had, their department did take some cuts. And we know that their team is doing more with less. And they're not out there making any complaints, but we do know that it's felt. And so just want to give them a special thanks. And Carrie, I know you're not prepared to say anything, but I don't know if you'd want to come up quickly, just make a few remarks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Carrie Hennon, Director of Pretrial Services. Thanks for recognizing the Resource Hub. We definitely had an exciting 2025, continuing all the momentum in 2026. Mark your calendars for August 19th for our annual block party. And the hub is open to the public. Stop by anytime, 10 to 4, Monday to Thursday. I think the hub is a great example of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. So the county provides space, a bit of staffing, a bit of coordination, but it would just be a big empty room without our provider partners. Great partnerships with the agencies that Leonard mentioned and many more. And so lots of people, 1,000 people accessed all kinds of different services and continue to do so. So we appreciate everybody's support and partnership and continuing the momentum in 2026. So thanks.
August 19th?
August 19th,
All right.
yes.
Thank you, Carrie. We're proud of you and your team.
All right, thank you, County Manager. We have consent items 1 through 13 with the exception of 11. So there's 12 items on the approved consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 13 with the exception of 11.
Motion is second, undebatable motion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Then that brings us to department items. We have 2 sheriff's office items. And the first is interlocal agreement with Port of Olympia for the transfer of 2 vessels to the sheriff's office. Either Sheriff or Sheriff Sanders.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Board of County Commissioners. So this was, it's been passed on once already. We went and chatted with the county budget finance team about taking on harbor patrol. This also includes the transfer of 2 vessels, so we aren't buying 2 new boats. We're just absorbing those 2 boats into our fleet. And then later on, there will be a new request to repower Integrity. As we talked to you guys before, Integrity is our actual harbor boat. It's enclosed. It allows our Marine Services deputies to operate in cold and harsh conditions. It's been down for 3 years. The engines on it blew. The engines are very expensive. They're more than $100,000 to repair those engines. We do have dedicated restricted funding to pay for those engines, but we did not want to make that expenditure on a boat that we didn't own. So that was a partnership between the port and the county back in the day. And it was obtained through a Homeland Security grant. So there was just a long process of getting that boat released from that grant so that the port could continue to have grant opportunities in the future and not be penalized. So now that that's been accomplished, we are ready to move forward on this. We also had the county budget team look at the harbor patrol activity, and they were able to confirm the same thing that we were able to, which is that we can absorb that.
Questions for Sheriff Sanders on harbor patrol items?
Just thanks for working with the county staff to answer all the questions. I think this is a great move.
Absolutely.
This fills a big gap in public safety.
Yeah, I think the harbor patrol group is excited, and our Marine Services deputies like having more resources on the water, so.
I move to approve the interlocal agreement between the Thurston County Sheriff's Office and Port of Olympia to transfer 2 vessels at a total cost of $12,075 to the Thurston County Sheriff's Office for incorporation into its Marine Services Unit, and to authorize the sheriff or designee to execute the agreement and amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the interlocal agreement. Discussion? Commissioner Grant?
Yeah, I just want to make sure to say that I appreciated that the sheriff and others on your team brought forward a comprehensive review of the budget and the way that we were going to pay for this, and it was very clear and transparent, and I really appreciate it. It made it really easy for this
Yeah.
vote.
Our finance team did a good job, and so did the budget team at the county, so thank you.
Commissioner Klaus?
Yeah, thank you. I want to echo Commissioner Grant's comments. The spreadsheet that we received helped me understand not only the cost, but the fund source that it's coming from. And I looked into that fund source quite a bit. I tried to dig back and find the resolution that established the fund. I couldn't find that, but I did find a lot of information about the history of this fund and how it's used, and that it is restricted for this purpose. So we're not taking from the general fund, which I appreciate. And then it was pretty clear also in the spreadsheet that you'll be coming forward during the first budget amendment for the integrity conversation. So I'll be looking forward to hearing kind of what we can discuss there and just the process of how you guys are acquiring it. I'm curious to know more, but I know that'll come up in the future. But thank you to your team for giving us that information so quickly.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Mejia?
Thank you, Sheriff, for the collaboration with the port as well. You know, internal is great, but also that piece with the port and getting that vessel transferred over. I was there when you presented this item at the town hall in Boston Harbor, and I know that several of the residents there, it was definitely an item of interest, and just excitement. So, yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, next up is the item from, which is on consent 11, what we moved, contract extension with City of Rainier. Sheriff to brief the board on this one.
Yeah, so this is to extend our contract that we've had with Rainier for about a decade now. So Rainier is kind of an interesting contract. It encompasses kind of a unique model where the district comes in and the city come in to basically fund 24/7 police response, but also a school resource officer. So this contract extension would run through, I believe, 2029, and effectively just continue providing police services to the citizens of Rainier.
I don't have questions. I've been saying this the entire time that we've been talking about this, is I understand the service. I think it's important. I know that we're providing a good service to them. I just don't think it's captured in the contract in a way that's very important. So, and I've been saying that, but I don't think I've been saying it right, because I don't think I've really gotten my point across. So I wrote it all out, so I'll just read my statement. I want to take a moment to explain my position on this agreement before us today. My concern is not with the sheriff's office, the city of Rainier, or the intent behind the contract. I believe the partnership is real, valuable, and important to both jurisdictions. My concern is with how the agreement is written. As it stands, the contract clearly defines what the city will pay, but it does not clearly define what the city will receive in return. It references law enforcement services, but it does not specify service levels, staffing expectations, or how those services differ from the baseline services that the county already provides. That creates a structural issue. Under the Interlocal Cooperation Act and under constitutional limitations of the use of public funds, we need to be able to demonstrate clear consideration, meaning a defined exchange of value. In simple terms, we need to be able to answer a basic question. What exactly is the city paying for? Right now, that answer is implied, but it is not explicitly stated in the agreement. That lack of clarity creates risk. It weakens our position in an audit. It creates potential exposure under gift of public funds concerns. It reduces transparency and accountability to the public, and it makes it difficult to defend that agreement if challenged. To be clear, I am not suggesting that services are not being provided. In practice, I believe the city likely receives dedicated attention, prioritized response, and community-focused policing. The issue is that those elements are not written into the contract. And if it's not in the contract, it's very difficult to prove, measure, or defend. The good news is that this is not a difficult problem to fix. We do not need to overhaul the agreement. We simply need to make the implicit explicit by defining the scope of services, including staffing and patrol expectations, clearly distinguishing between baseline county services and enhanced contracted services, tying the compensation directly to those defined services, and strengthening the annual review to include service levels, not just cost. These are targeted, straightforward revisions that would significantly improve the clarity and defensibility of the agreement. I also want to acknowledge that this type of contract may reflect how these agreements have been done historically, but past practice does not eliminate our responsibility to ensure that what we approve today meets current legal, audit, and transparency expectations. We should not rely on how it's always been done if there are identifiable gaps that can and should be corrected. For those reasons, I'm not comfortable supporting the agreement in its current form. My preference would be to pull this item, work with the sheriff's office and the city to incorporate clarifications, bring it back in a form that clearly documents the value being exchanged. I believe that approach protects all parties involved, the county, the city, the sheriff's office, and strengthens the agreement rather than delaying it unnecessarily. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fournier. I wasn't here this morning, and I guess it wouldn't get discussed in detail, but I'm curious that do we have, often we have a legal review, legal sign off. Did this go through that typical process?
Yeah, well.
Because then Jimmy just say trying to bird dog Commissioner Fournier's concerns this afternoon, looking back at the agreement, it's an extension to an extension. So, and in the extension that it's extending, it says, it refers to a previous contract that we don't actually, or I didn't actually see. So I don't know if there was some clarification that he's talking about in the contract that, 2 contracts back that we don't have or not.
Yeah, so my understanding is that we don't, even when we do a contract extension, it still goes before the prosecuting attorney's office because laws can change, ordinances can change, circumstances can change. So just because a contract is extended doesn't mean that we're still going off of a decade-old PAO review. So this one has the box checked, which means that Heidi had it sent off to, I think Chad is our attorney now, and it got back to us. So he has signed off on it, to answer your question.
Commissioner Klaus?
I guess I would just be curious to know the sheriff's perspective on the comments we heard today, and if you feel that would give us the opportunity to strengthen the contract by holding off and doing what Commissioner Fournier is suggesting, or if there's a need to push this forward. I know the contract it's not set to start until June, so maybe that means we have some time, but I'm just curious to know your thoughts.
We don't have as much time as you might think. We have to get this back to Rainier's council, which means they have to get it on their agenda and follow their own public hearing process. So we already, I think, as an office feel rushed in our current because it was pulled off the last agenda. Like we try to get a couple months ahead of these things, but my opinion is that, the contract states that we will provide law enforcement service. That's what we provide. So we provide them the exact same thing that unincorporated citizens get. That's why the contract's not super detailed in that, because there are certain statutes and things that we just have to provide unincorporated citizens, and that's what Rainier pays for. So Rainier doesn't pay for a dedicated deputy to sit inside of the city and just drive through the city all day long, 24 hours a day. Their model is we're paying you for the service of when we need you, we'll call. They're paying for the deputies that respond to 911 calls. They do pay, it's kind of broken up, $40,000 comes from the city of Rainier for a school resource officer and $40,000 comes from the school district. Their model is that the school resource officer during their business hours will respond to something inside the city. Rainier's not a big city. So, if there's a theft at the Chevron down the street, he'll drive across the street and handle the theft. So that's how Rainier has decided to operate their police services. If they wanted to come back to us and renegotiate the contract and say, hey, listen, we'd really like a deputy there in the city, dedicated, not in the school, but in the city, we'd have to totally revise the contract. We'd have to go more detailed into, okay, well, what does a deputy 24 hours a day look like? And it gets really, really, really expensive. Rainier's model is basically, we'll pay you X amount of dollars, treat us like unincorporated citizens when it comes to responding to 911 calls, doing traffic enforcement, those types of things, with the exception of the school resource officer. So for me, it's the same thing as like, we don't have a contract that explains what my job is. I don't have a contract with the citizens of Thurston County to say, I'm gonna come do X amount of traffic stops in your neighborhood. As an elected official, I have to deploy resources. That's ultimately my job. So when Rainier says, hey, we're gonna pay you because the county doesn't collect Rainier sales tax. So as an incorporated city, they are responsible for their own police services. They can either start a police department or they can contract, one or the other. So for Rainier, what they're basically saying is, we will pay you to come do this police work, and they're delegating to me to determine when we do special details. We assist them with like the roundup days, parades, and things like that. We come do traffic control. So that's all built into the contract. And I will also say that Rainier averages 4.6 911 calls per day. Your average deputy is probably handling anywhere from 10 to 15 in unincorporated Thurston County. So Rainier took that data, which is still relevant, which we still review every year, and said, don't really need a full-time deputy here. We really can just fold into the general unincorporated county. So,
Commissioner Mejia?
Thank you. Just to follow up on kind of that question. So, based kind of like on the timeline, I believe that our next meeting would be April 21st, is that correct, clerk? So that would add, that would, you know, put some constraints on the city of Rainier for them to go through their own.
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility, I think you guys should understand, this is the other side of this, is that this isn't there's not really an option here to contract with the city of Rainier. Like, this isn't whether or not we're gonna pick up their garbage. This is whether or not 911 calls are gonna get answered. So if we push this too far out and we end up moving into an expired contract, we just do this for free. Just do it for free. So that they're just not gonna pay for the service until we get the and then maybe there's back pay. I don't know how that'll work, but I'm not gonna not respond to emergencies and handle these issues inside the city of Rainier. It just doesn't work like that.
You're not, because they're paying you already. Like please, I want to say again, you're making my argument. And the argument is, you're saying that they're paying extra to receive the same service that the unincorporated citizens are receiving. You said that. They're paying more. They're already paying that. Every person in Thurston County is one of your constituents.
That's correct.
That pays property taxes to the county, and they get a baseline level of service. The sales tax argument doesn't hold weight.
How?
It doesn't. Every citizen in Thurston County, they pay property taxes that go into the general fund, and that funds the baseline level of operation. The sales tax is beyond that. That's extra. That's paid by everybody that comes through and out and travels through the community. They're not even residents. They could be from other countries. It's the same. It's the same as the treasurer.
That applies to Thurston County
The
as well.
treasurer does not. If the treasurer provides services for the city of Rainier, they don't need an extra contract. There's a baseline level of service. The coroner, it's what's beyond that makes a city unique, that needs a little extra policing, that has to be defined as that extra value in the contract.
I don't believe that the county is not paying for Rainier's IT expenses. They're not paying for their council members' salaries. We're not doing that at the county elected official era. Like, the treasurer doesn't go in and handle all of Rainier's issues with budget and finance.
He could, and they would have a private contract for that extra service. Bucota was actually talking to the treasurer about that. But it's that extra service beyond the baseline that everybody's already paying for.
Okay.
And that, all I'm saying is, this can easily be fixed, and there just needs to be some service language in here. Otherwise, it's not a contract, it's a payment schedule. And there's nothing in there defining what the city of Rainier is paying for.
Well, you're right. It is a payment schedule. Every year, they pay a certain amount of dollars for the sheriff's office to provide police services in their business.
Yes.
The city of Rainier is a business. It's an incorporated business. When you incorporate, the county doesn't get to collect those sales tax dollars. My budget is made up of sales tax dollars and general fund in the general fund.
And that's
which
when
is
we come
property
and
tax.
negotiate a contract for those extra services that are required because they have that unique extra thing. Otherwise, it's just a payment schedule and it's not a contract.
I would
You have to
disagree
have
with that.
consideration in a contract. There's
I-
gotta be two elements.
I would disagree with that. I think incorporated cities have their own duty to provide their own police services and all those. They pay for jail, they pay for courts, they pay for all these different things. You can make the argument that district court is beholden to Rainier then. So why do they bill? Aren't they beholden to those services? Does district court, do those judges not represent all 305,000 citizens? It's the same concept. At this level, those cities, we do not get to collect their sales tax, which means there are dollars there that aren't coming to the sheriff's office. So as a result, what we do is we contract. We contract with businesses. They're basically a private business. That's the way to look at these cities when we don't have access to those sales tax dollars.
Right. And that's where you gotta put the service in there.
Let me get to
Yes,
Commissioner
and the
Klaus.
service is that when they call 911, we'll be there.
You would do that anyways.
No, I
You-
don't do
you
that
are-
for the
you're
city of
required-
Lacey. I do not do that for the city of Lacey. When they call 911, they get the Lacey Police Department. If Lacey wanted our services, we would say, give us a piece of that sales tax then that you're collecting. I mean, think about if we were collecting the sales tax from the city of Lacey, how many deputies you could fund? A lot. You could, but we're not collecting that. That's why the city has Lacey police. We hear it all the time in contract negotiations. Why do Lacey police officers make so much more money? It's sales tax. I've heard these conversations amongst this very board and our county management team. The reason that Lacey police officers get paid more, have a much higher officer per ratio than the sheriff's office does, significantly more. They've got backup 2 feet away is because of all the explosive sales tax by all the business they have. So if the city of Lacey said, you know, we'd really like to contract with the sheriff's office, we would say, here's how much it costs. Yeah, all of those Lacey residents are my residents, absolutely. And they get things like the civil stuff that we serve. So we serve civil papers. We operate a jail that the entire county gets access to for felony crimes. But to say that they're paying twice or that, you know, we have to provide additional service, I would disagree with that, just based on the conversations I've heard from this board.
Commissioner Grant?
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm just thinking that, you know, we should decide if we're gonna move forward with this. At this time, I'm a little confused on why, when we've had this before us in multiple different, this is like the third time that we've had an opportunity to discuss this. Is this the first time that it's coming up?
I've said this every time.
And so, I mean, I guess for me, I appreciate, the one thing I will say is that we have talked about this. I, of course, agree with Commissioner Fournier in the, you know, when it comes to the fact that we have to have good contracts with laid out conditions. But I have already had you come before us and say that you've looked at that you're reviewing how that works, that there is a methodology, and we've discussed through it. So at this time, I'm ready to move forward.
There's no motion on the table.
I know.
And if I might, Chair,
Yes.
I am 100% open to doing a deep dive study if we want to look closely at, I mean, we're talking about a lot of time, effort, and energy it's going to take to say, I can tell you 4.6 calls per day, but I don't have the breakdown with me about what those calls are and how many area checks deputies are doing and all of these X factors and what does it cost for HR and what does it cost if a SWAT team has to get deployed. I guess what I'm looking at here though is we should have those conversations in the off time. Like 30 days before this contract expires isn't, to me, the appropriate time to be like, let's start adding and changing a bunch of stuff, because now the city of Rainier has to get it before their attorney and all of these different things. So I'm more than happy to have this conversation. I just think it needs to occur at a time where we're not pushed up against such a tight deadline.
I've been saying this the whole time. I've been pretty consistent that my concern with this contract is there's no value statement in there. And I don't think that it needs to be a giant overhaul of the contract. I think that there's some simple considerations that could be added in there, and it's something that could be completed fairly quickly. I'm not saying it needs to be an overhaul. I think the values are probably somewhere that is decent, but that's not something I have any real understanding of. I don't know how those were gathered. I've got the history I have with this. I remember sitting down with Snaza, and he called these free money. And I thought that was wrong then. I think it's wrong now. There's got to be some type of, there's got to be something tied to the value of what the city's paying. Otherwise, it's not a real contract.
Commissioner Klaus?
Thank you, Chair. I move to approve the amendment to the contract with the City of Rainier for law enforcement services to extend the end date of the agreement from June 2026 to June 2029 and authorize the sheriff to execute the agreement and amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the contract amendment with Rainier. Discussion on the motion. I saw Commissioner Mejia.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do appreciate the discussion, and I know that this has been something I think that Commissioner Fournier has been bringing it up, and I heard it at the town hall as well this weekend in terms of concerns. Kind of where I'm at, there is a provision on the contract, right, that allows that annual review, and for me, it comes down to kind of that timing of the contract and where we're at. Kind of counting from today and from the expiration at 60 days. And so I think that kind of based on that, I think that we should take this opportunity from now until the end of the year on that annual review to kind of go back in with the city and kind of also have those conversations on, like, what is it, right? Because it's not just the county, it's also the city that's entering into this contract, and there might be things the city wants to see in there, and, you know, maybe there's things that they don't want to see in there, and so I don't think that it should just be the county having these conversations. I think we need to have them in conjunction with the city as well as with the sheriff. So, you know, I would definitely encourage us that before, from now until the annual review, that we take this opportunity to see how we can really strengthen this contract, and it might come back next year as an amendment, and we can work through that. You know, I kind of just from what I've heard, you know, I'll be in support of moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm totally okay with that as well. I'm good with all that. And, you know, part of what we do for the city of Rainier and Bucota is we have a lieutenant assigned to those contract cities who goes to their council meetings and gives them updates, right? Hey, you know, we had a burglary last week, no suspect info, don't really think it's part of a trend. They get to express any concerns they have going on inside their city. But I think just where I'm at right this moment is I appreciate Commissioner Fournier's words. No one has expressed to us they're confused about the services that are being provided. And I think from just the layman person perspective within the city of Rainier, they're just expecting that they occasionally see a patrol car. If they call 911, a competent deputy is going to show up and handle their problem for them, which is occurring. To the best of my knowledge, that is occurring. I've talked with the mayor of Rainier. He had no concerns. I did take the vehicle out of this contract. I thought that was just confusing. It didn't make a lot of sense. It was kind of outdated. So we have been looking at this contract as we go to say, do things really still make sense? I think at 4.6 calls per day for service, like we all kind of, you know, a product is worth what someone is willing to pay for it. That's how the market works. And I think we're all kind of looking at this, at least from the city of Rainier and the sheriff's office, and saying this still feels about right. We can go into a further deep dive, absolutely. And in part of that deep dive, we want to clarify, I don't know what performance measures you're looking for. I would stay away from that kind of thing, but if you're really curious about having more info and more detail in here about the exact services that are provided, but right now it is the same services we provide to the citizens of the people who live just outside the city limits of Rainier. We're gonna come for their calls for service and help them.
I'm gonna just say that you know, I'm pretty confident the value could be spelled out. Maybe it should be, but that's really Rainier's issue. If they want to bring forward a proposed amendment, our side has signed off on this, and it's, you know, an extension to a longstanding relationship. So I'm going to support this and open to those conversations about how to make it cleaner going forward. Any other comments, Commissioner Klaus?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I was going to ask the sheriff a little bit ago during the conversation what other jurisdictions have similar contracts with the county.
Bucota.
Okay, that's the
Tenino is actively
Debating.
engaging with us, but
Okay. And this one's
Bucota is
existed for a
the
long time.
other. And so Tenino or Rainier pays $225,000 ish, 224. I think Bucota is 48,000. So
Okay.
we've kind of got this disparity based on the population and call volume. Bucota is 0.8 calls per day.
Okay.
Very low.
Okay, and do you feel, I mean, of course, throughout this conversation, we're identifying potential gaps that may need to be filled later in the process, but do you feel pretty comfortable, and does your budget team feel pretty comfortable that the between 265 and 220,000-ish per year is a full cost recovery, or does your team feel that we're subsidizing any of the services?
I believe it's a full cost recovery.
Okay, and
Okay, how?
Sorry.
It's my
That's-
estimate. Well, a deputy sheriff is $150,000 a year, well, $170,000 a year. And at 4.6 calls for service per day, a deputy sheriff on a 10-hour shift, on any given 10-hour shift, is handling anywhere from 10 to 30 calls a night. So at $224,000 a year, I mean, you're pretty close. I mean, yeah, Rainier isn't paying for a deputy to sit inside of the city limits 24 hours a day, but based on how many times they pick up the phone and call, we're not that far off. So could this contract be, if you did a big study, could this contract be tweaked here or there? Probably.
But if it's that simple,
Commissioner Claus has a floor.
then just put that in the contract. That's it. That's all I'm
so
asking.
I wanna say, because we're, for the record, and I know our agenda packets are like several hundreds of pages, so the public might not be able to easily dig this up, but the contract, I assume, is in the big agenda packet for this meeting. And so I wanna put it on the record that it says straight in the contract, and clarification maybe in the future would be good, but I see enough in the contract to feel comfortable where it says the sheriff's office will annually review the volume of calls for service and retains the right to adjust the compensation for services based on that review, as well as any adjustments in actual salary and benefits. So that's in there. And then as far as the services they'll be receiving, we say in the contract, it is understood that the city will pay for the reasonable cost of services received, and the above figure are expected to properly reimburse TCSO for those costs. So it does talk about, you know, whether we think it's vague or not, I think it's pretty clear, and I think that the sheriff's office already understands their operations well enough to tell us if they feel comfortable with the wording in this contract and whether it really captures everything that's gonna be provided. So I'm comfortable moving forward, but I do appreciate Commissioner Fournier's comments. They did come in a lot clearer this time than, you know, like you said, Commissioner Fournier, you're clarifying a bit of what you've been saying, and what I heard today was more clear and thorough than anything I've heard you say, so I do appreciate that. And I think there is room for improving the contract language, but that kind of goes for every contract the county ever talks about. There's always room for improvement, if we want to, so, but I think the content of this contract, I'm comfortable moving forward with it and hearing from the sheriff that you're comfortable with the level of service. I think it would be interesting to kind of do a little bit of a study on whether this does capture the full cost, but I think that there's so much nuance that goes into the types of services that might be kind of difficult to do.
And I think that's the part, right? I mean, you know, in the off chance that Rainier has 2 SWAT callouts for barricaded domestic violence suspects, well, that year's gonna look really, really expensive. And then the next year, they could have none. And that year's gonna look way cheaper. Policing services are really hard to anticipate because they can be unpredictable. In a year where, look at the county and our budget for overtime, in a year where we have more homicides, our overtime rate increases because that's a bunch of detectives who get called out after hours and work long hours to work those cases. In years where we have dips, you start to see that subside. So what we're really trying to do, and this is a challenge, it was probably a challenge back when you and Snaza did it too, to determine like, what does this cost and how do we get to a fair market value where both sides feel like they're getting what they deserve out of it. But yeah, I feel comfortable.
None of that was done then. It was completely arbitrary, and it was based on the previous contract that the city of Tenino had with their adjacent cities. You mentioned the SWAT thing, right? SWAT goes into Lacey, right?
Yes, mutual aid.
Okay, and SWAT goes into Olympia, and SWAT goes into.
All under a mutual aid, and that's part of that ILA.
Okay, and we don't bill them.
No, because it's mutual aid. So if it were just the Thurston County Sheriff's Office deputies and detectives who were on our own SWAT team, like many cities and counties do in other places, you could bill them. You absolutely could. But because we have a team that's comprised of all these different agencies, we say, hey, we're gonna go anywhere we need to go to help each other. So that's part of that mutual aid. It's the same reason why every time we grapple a car for the city of Lacey, we're not gonna bill them $375 because the next day they'll throw spikes for us to help to get the car stopped. Like the mutual aid becomes more important than the billing and the diming and things like that. So, and I don't know if it's the same thing in the fire service, but I see a lot of Lacey Fire and stuff going to big structure fires within the county. I have to assume to some degree they have an agreement that says, hey, we're gonna help each other out because we don't have enough of us and there's a lot of big problems out there that we need to tackle. So that's kind of the concept behind it.
Any other discussion on this motion? There was a motion in second, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Yeah.
That motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners.
I have a secondary motion that would probably satisfy my concerns. And that would be if we could refer the contract to the internal auditor for review. I think that he could take a look at it and make sure that all my concerns are addressed in anticipation of kind of the amendment thing like Commissioner Mejia was talking about. Just to ensure that we're in line with the Interlocal Cooperation Act and all the other basic contracting concerns.
Do you want to be specific about your?
Yeah, I make a motion to just refer the contract, and this wouldn't hold the contract up. The contract would move forward because these two things can be done in parallel. Refer the contract to the internal auditor for review.
Is there a second? Not hearing a second. I may be willing to second that at a different time after I've thought about it and maybe discussed it with you.
Okay, I'll pull the motion.
I'll just send it to the auditor.
Okay, not the auditor.
The internal auditor, yeah, correct, the internal auditor, I'll just send it, it's fine, but I still would like to get this off to Rainier.
Yeah, this doesn't
This
slow
is the
down.
contract. Okay. I will send it, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay, next up is public comment related to general matters, and I won't go through the advisements because I think everyone was here when I gave them. So let's go with TJ Johnson up first with Bo Foster on deck.
Good afternoon. For the record, TJ Johnson. I am here as the chair of the Thurston Conservation District Board of Supervisors. With me is our vice chair, Mary Ann Tompkins, and our executive director, Sir Moorhead. For over 75 years, TCD has worked with private landowners to identify solutions to environmental concerns and encouraging and supporting voluntary stewardship that makes Thurston County a better place to live for all of us. We're non-regulatory. We bring funding, technical expertise, political advocacy, and community trust to help local jurisdictions meet their community visions and goals. As you know, our base funding is provided through rates and charges paid by most of the property owners in Thurston County. This year, that brings in about $565,000 to the district. That is our base to leverage other funding. It represents 6% of our total $9.7 million budget. So very important source, but it is dramatically leveraged many times over. It's the largest budget in our history, and these funds will result in unprecedented positive impacts on our shared goals and regional conservation and environmental priorities. Last year, we undertook a process to develop a strategic plan. We worked with our local jurisdictions, our local partners, private landowners, and general citizens, and we've developed a new strategic plan called 2040 and Beyond. And Mary Ann has copies of that, as well as our annual report from 2024 to pass out. Our 2025 report is being printed right now. You'll get that when it's available. What I will say about this strategic plan is the most ambitious plan in our history, but it has to be, given the urgency of the problems that we face. For example, rapidly disappearing farmland, forests, and habitats, threatened integrated watersheds and marine ecosystems, and of course, the accelerating impacts of climate change. So this plan is about acting now to avoid unavoidable loss or irreversible loss in the future. So the plan is grounded in 4 strategic priorities: protect and restore natural resources, build climate resilience and prepare for disasters, expand access and community connections to land and food, and to lead these efforts with strong partnerships and organizational excellence. We're very committed to showing tangible results for our efforts at the district, and we measure things. For example, we look at number of acres protected and restored, the number of people that are engaged actively in stewardship in the county, the dollars we bring into the community that we're able to leverage. And we have strong accountable programs that meet our community's needs, and we know that because we're always going back and forth and asking the community if we're meeting their needs, and when we're not, we change things. So we look forward to continuing to partner with Thurston County and all of our other local jurisdictions, and we're making the same presentation to all of them. We want to make sure that we're aligning land use and conservation strategies, we're co-developing climate and watershed solutions, we're preserving farmland and expanding the capacity for local food production, we're expanding community access and education, and we're leveraging as much funding as we can together amongst us. So in closing, this plan isn't about conservation programs, it's about building a future where conservation is a shared way of life in Thurston County. We're ready to lead, but we need to do it with our partners, and we've always done it with Thurston County, and we continue to look forward to doing that as a partner with the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Bo Foster. On deck, Terry Ballard.
My name is Bo Foster. I am a broker owner in Rainier, Washington. I would like to read most of my statement just to make sure that I don't miss some important point. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I am here to formally request that the commissioners consider enacting a building amnesty program for older unpermitted residential and commercial structures in Thurston County, modeled after the limited amnesty program previously implemented in Pierce County from 2008 to 2010. This request is rooted in public safety, environmental protection, fairness to homeowners, and improved compliance with county and state regulations. There are many homes in Thurston County that were built years and sometimes decades ago without permits. I see many of them. Just this week alone, 3 properties such as that. In most cases, these were not attempts to evade regulation, but a result of past building practices, lack of awareness, or changes in ownership over time. Many affected homeowners are on fixed incomes and bought homes unknowingly. Amnesty is not about letting people off, but about bringing everyone into the system. Today, many of these homeowners would like to bring their properties into compliance. However, they are discouraged from doing so because the current code is often physically or economically impossible to meet for older structures. The cost of penalties is very high. The permitting process feels risky and unclear. An enforcement-only approach creates fear rather than cooperation. As a result, unsafe environment or environmentally harmful conditions may remain unaddressed. Our research indicates that Pierce County previously implemented a time-limited building amnesty program between 2008 and 2010. While we understand that certain statewide codes, such as energy and environmental requirements, must still be respected, this program demonstrates that local governments can create structured pathways that encourage compliance rather than avoidance. I have a copy of a summary of what the Pierce County's program entailed, which I will give to you. Requested amnesty framework. We asked the commissioners to consider the following elements. One, that you would enact a program similar to what Pierce County did. That amnesty would apply to residential and commercial buildings constructed prior to 2018. Structures must be evaluated for life, safety, structural integrity, septic systems, and environmental impact. Where the current statewide codes cannot be reasonably met, alternative compliance options are provided. As an example, with energy code mitigation option, in cases where energy code compliance is demonstratively infeasible, owners may pay a mitigation fee. This concept would be similar to existing environmental mitigation programs, such as gopher habitat mitigation.
I need you to wrap up.
Pardon me?
I need you to wrap up. Your time is up.
Ooh, okay. Funds would be earmarked for energy efficiency, low-income weatherization, or community homelessness assistance. It would be of time-limited nature. It would state that it is a temporary program. It would not reward future noncompliance, and it is not an open-ended policy shift. It would be a one-time, time-limited opportunity to bring older structures into compliance. It would be simple to administer with standardized checklists that would reduce ambiguity for staff, focus inspections on health, safety, and environment. It would exclude new construction, known hazards, or illegal uses. We believe the benefit of such a program would be that it would increase property values, improve septic systems, reducing environmental risk and protecting groundwater and aquifers, bring unsafe and undocumented structures into compliance, improving overall housing quality, enhance public safety by addressing electrical, structural, and fire hazards, reduce costly enforcement actions, inspections, and legal disputes, and encourage voluntary compliance.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna
Thank
have
you.
to stop you.
I'm done.
We will review your
Yes,
written material. Thank you for
so
providing
much
that.
for listening to me.
Very interesting, and I would like to review that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ballard and then Mr. Pettit is on deck.
Different sets.
Good afternoon. My name's Terry Ballard, and I live in Tanglewilde, unincorporated Thurston County. I'm here today to comment about your stewardships of land and waterways by our Native Americans. The irreverence is duly noted, but it's not from the heart. It's an oxymoron and an atrocity, and here's why. we had a treaty of the Medicine Creek, which was established in 1854. We gave, specifically, we gave the land, we gave 1,280 acres to the Nisqually tribe. Everybody didn't like it. All the three reservations didn't like it, and the tribe got, Nisqually tribe got a total of 4,770 acres. But that was in 1856. But the government, the government, took away 3,300 acres for Fort Lewis. Okay, and the atrocity was that the one that was complaining the most was Chief Lucy. Remember the hanging tree? Okay, Chief Lucy. Okay, that was the Puget Sound War, and they captured Chief Lucy of the Nisqually tribe. Okay, he became chief in 1854. He was captured in 1856. He was executed in 1858 for being in a war, killing Union soldiers, and he was exonerated in 2004. Our tribe feels great about that. Exonerated in 2004. Well, you can keep on honoring him, but it's not from the heart at all. Next, I got a little comment. We had a resolution for election security and more sheriff's officers. Then we had a voter's pamphlet that said the same, and we had a vote to the people that did the same. And then we went ahead and we said, we don't need any more officers, so therefore we'd have a reduction in force across the board to include the sheriff's officers, okay? And then we had a bond, okay, to pay for a building outside of the county seat, Tumwater. And then we had another bond to pay for a courthouse, both of which were not on the capital facility plan as required by the RCW. Okay, then we need a feasibility study to see if those buildings are in compliance of our needs. Well, let me tell you, okay, we're at 0.6 right now per 1,000 of the population of unincorporated Thurston County per officer. 0.6. We were at 0.7, now we're at 0.6. And we have an argument by Mr. Fortier, and he was he was a city mayor. He should know all this of Tenino, which is in incorporated Thurston County. He should know this. He should know it all. And the last of all, we have a signature legal to the form. You have a legal department that is supposed to tell you all the stuff you need to pass it, but they're in absence of this, and you're requiring a sheriff to do the same, that you have a legal department to go to before signing something. It just doesn't take part. It's just totally screwed up. And I thank God every day I didn't get promoted to county commissioner in 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Pettit with Melanie Rabalia on deck.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Again, John Pettit, Rich Road, Southeast. There's a couple of things which I want to bring forth, and I think all of you are aware that I am here at the building here in order to address planning issues and helping people to get through the permitting process. I would invite, just like the sheriff has a ride-along, I would invite any of you commissioners, you can sit silently and actually watch the process of what it's like to go through planning. It is, well, it's atrocious. Because I have continually tried and strived for years, this isn't just a today issue, for years about following the process that's been laid out there for the county under the environmental review process, critical area ordinance. And the county has taken actions which in fact says, we're not going to actually make site visits. We're just going to look at a map and we're going to tell you to spend thousands of dollars on reviews, whether or not it may be applicable or not, That's what's happening right now. Because of that happening right now, I have dropped off to your upstairs, and you'll probably all receive a copy of it. A particular thing of letting you know that this will be being forwarded to a legal counsel. I'm not threatening you directly at all, because I think all of you are representing the people. And I think all of you understand the concept that if the county damages somebody, that you owe them compensation to make them whole again. That if the sheriff was driving down the road and hit somebody, you would have to take care of paying for getting them back into good condition. Well, essentially, if you take a look at the particular documents that I've given you, I think you'll understand pretty simple. And you'll see that the county has already admitted that they don't do site visits as per required in code 24.05.027. You'll see that the county has a policy about their mapping system, a disclaimer that says, hey, everyone, don't use the map system. It's not accurate. It's not correct. And yet the county planning department uses it completely to enforce and make people have to spend thousands of dollars on permitting without ever going and looking at what we call a project envelope. And then, of course, some of you, I'm going to take one more moment here. Some of you might get the chance to see some of the map examples. And if you had a chance, like Mr. Menzer's, where he lives in that subdivision, there's what we call monuments that shows survey. And it actually shows the mapping. He owns part of the house next door. And part of the house that he has belongs to the property next door to him. The maps aren't right. The water, the major component that seems to hit most people has to do with what's referred to as wetlands. We have a national wetland inventory system that is highly professional, but you know what? We have all types of false positives. Read the particular document I've dropped off. Understand that you're here to represent the people, to make sure that they're all made whole again and make the system work right, and they have to follow the county code as written. If it's really followed, actually, I don't think very many people would have a problem with it. Thank you.
Were you offering us a John Pettit ride-along?
You have a John Pettit ride-along.
Just want to make sure I understood
And
that.
you wouldn't even have to talk. All you have to do is just watch. It's painful.
Mr. Voglia, here you go.
Greetings and salutations. For the record, my name is Melanie Rabalia, residing here in the great state of Washington, working for a living here and for the great Thurston County. Hi, Commissioners. Thanks again for providing funding on our yearly event Procession of the Species, and here's our update. The Community Art Studio, located at 509 East 4th, the former home of Orca Books, together with the former home of Johnson Ballet, is busy. The updated schedule has spring schedule hours, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sunday, noon to 9 p.m. Next week is spring break, and I'm sure some of you already know that. So the deal at the Procession Studio is from April the 6th through the 10th, which is Monday through Friday. They will be open from noon till 9. So today I'm here inviting you again to join, participate, create, develop, and build to make this event happy. Here's my music and dance promotion. We have the Artisan Rumble Orchestra, we have the Crow Drummers and Dancers, the infamous Samba Oliwa, Sticks and Bones, along with Lincoln Elementary Samba. Please consider joining one of these, or just bring your own dusty trumpet from your closet, take out some spoons, pots, and pans from your kitchen, or the bucket that's sitting on your garage shelf. This event is not designed as a competition, but I will challenge all of you to join me in walking and see how many smiles you people can bring in. I know I'm gonna bring in a lot. It'll be here before we know it. We've got like 24 days. Friday, April the 24th is Luminary. It starts at 8:30. Saturday, April the 25th, procession begins at 4:30 while Art Walks is happening, and Ty knows because I think he's gonna be performing somewhere. Maybe. So, the website is www.procession.org. The Facebook page is Olympia Procession of the Species. The regular needs of money and a permanent studio space are ongoing. Donations of money, we've got a GoFundMe page going this year. Eli started it. Along with supplies are always appreciated. We're looking for frame-type backpacks, bright fabrics and paints, light gauge chicken wire, lots of duct tape. We always use duct tape, 5-gallon buckets, and pool noodles. I'll be back with one more update. As you noticed, April the 21st is our next meeting. We'll have 3 days at that point. I may be bringing my costume in.
The poster looks really cool.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
And on another note, if you guys want a mapping lesson, you can come on over to my office. I'm more than happy to give you one. Gotta get back to work. I take 2 hours worth of vacation when I do this. Just to let you know.
Henry Balls, I didn't forget you.
Favorite.
Sorry you got there at the end, but.
No worries, that's my fault for signing up for the wrong list. I was never good at written instructions.
Yeah.
Henry Vols, Olympia High School swim and dive head coach. I would love for you to never see me again, other than to be on the side of a swimming pool where I belong. I just want to continue to implore this county commissioners to keep being part of the solution to the Evergreen swim pool and the CRC as a whole. The CRC has is a potential unexplored gold mine for this community. Gym space, weight rooms, 2 climbing walls, mat rooms, exercise facilities, and racquetball courts, all of which were paid for by Thurston County and Washington State taxpayers for decades. But we desperately need the pool to remain open continuously, not just long-term or eventually. The reasons for this is we have a free swim camp that we're supposed to be hosting in 3 months that we hope to have about 200 students learn to swim. Additionally, in 4 months, we're supposed to have the senior game swim meet that is going to be hosted there, hopefully, with seniors coming from throughout the country to compete in Thurston County from age 50 to nearly 100 years old. In previous years, we even drew participants from Mexico and Canada. The good news is the fixes have already been done to the grates, so there's absolutely no short-term fixes needed. All we need to do now is keep the doors open. The pool is now more popular than it has been in a decade or more. The announcement of the closure has introduced some people to a place they didn't know existed. We now have 4,000 signatures to keep the pool open, with 2,600 coming from just 3 zip codes in Thurston County. The place that Evergreen closed in 2017 is now finally open again and has some real momentum. We have a chance to regrow something similar to a healthy ecosystem again. Teams and guards need to teach new swimmers. New swimmers will join teams. Some of them will become guards. Some guards will become instructors. Instructors will instruct the next generation again. Swimmers will become water polo players or divers or scuba divers or kayaks or doctors or police officers or paramedics or Navy dive officers or Air Force officers, or now we even have a Space Force major as a graduate of our program. Every part of this serves each other. And now we're starting to see the seeds sprout again over an area that was nearly wiped clear, except for a single tree, the Olympia School District programs. But if it closes again like it did in 2017, that new growth will be wiped out yet again, and this time they're proposing to cut down that tree too. Thank you so much for your time and the effort that I know that some of you have put into it. I'm willing to answer any questions, and I'm always available to all the students of Thurston County and all the citizens, because swimming saves lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Dalton Co. I've lived in Thurston County pretty much the whole time I've lived in Washington. If I get a little stumbly, I apologize. Not really my forte. But I've come here today to discuss the plan to implement AI security systems with facial recognition technology and the dangers it can pose to the most vulnerable in our community. These facial recognition systems are known to be anywhere from 10 to 100 times more likely to produce false positives when scanning non-white faces. These false positives can pose real significant threats to people, as with one man who had police dogs sicked on him because of an ALPR misread a 7 as a 2. I don't believe it's hyperbolic to say that at this current moment, our democracy hangs by a razor-thin wire. With the looming threat of this administration sending ICE agents to polling locations, these already precedent dangers are only made that much worse. By implementing this software, you're putting people in this community in danger, creating a chilling effect that could stop people from feeling safe enough to participate in our democracy, and in the worst case scenario, creating and handing over the exact infrastructure that will be used to cut that last thread. Thank you.
Anyone else that didn't get a chance to sign up that wanted to give public comment? Okay. That brings us to item 7, Commissioners' Community Reports. Commissioner Mejia, do you want to start this week?
Thank you, Chair. So since our last meeting, I attended the Rebuilding Thurston County Breakfast, attended the Partnership Council for Juvenile Justice Legislative Steering Committee, and that was just kind of a rundown on all of our legislative priorities, the affordable housing board for Gov's office, advocacy committee as well, and of course the conversation, the big piece of the conversation there is still kind of what is going to happen with housing at the state. I know the governor has kind of assigned some priorities, and so there is currently a survey, and so a lot of conversation about that. Intercity transit meeting, also the Thurston Regional Planning Council is going to be holding a retreat later this year, and so I have I'm now participating in that subcommittee. So we had our first meeting, attended study, the BHASO governing board meeting. They also are right now kind of going through the cuts that are going to be kind of implemented, and so they're working through that. I was very excited, and it's very exciting to have Sarah here. I got invited to participate in a podcast put on by the Conservation District to discuss meat processing, and it was a really great panel. I was invited, Commissioner Fournier, as well as Jennifer Colvin and Asan Mead from the EDC, and so I'm really excited to hear how that comes out. Just hearing the conversation while I was there, it was very exciting. I also attended the Risk Pool Legislative Steering Committee and kind of heard kind of a rundown on just legislative updates. Attended the 2026 Habitat Strategic Initiative Lead Subrecipient Summit. It was really great, and I was very excited to see Brian from our Community Planning and Economic Development kind of give a rundown on the work that we're doing here in Thurston County. We're one of the subrecipients this year, so it was really exciting to always run into our staff and seeing that they're doing great work out in statewide. I was also invited. I felt like deja vu. It was a lot about meat processing. I was invited to attend the Pierce County Ag Advisory Committee and give, it was also Aslyn Mead from the EDC, as well as Eric Klein, Jennifer Colvin's husband, to give a presentation on an update on meat processing. And from there, kind of just give them a rundown of where we're at in the process, and kind of how all those partnerships are, why we are where we are. Attended the NACO Policy Insider webinar series, which was in regards to understanding the federal landscape for counties, not looking very bright. Affordable Homes, Stable Communities, 2026 Housing Convening in Seattle. I was able to attend that for a day. It's always great to connect with different partners across the US and seeing kind of what everyone's working on. Attended a Board of Health special meeting where we chose our youth representatives. So congratulations to Connie Chen and Sarah Wimsett. And thank you to all the students who participated and interviewed for the opportunity. So this is the first time our Board of Health is going to have youth representatives, and very excited. We had 9 applicants. They were all amazing. And it just gives me so much hope for just these students. They were all so incredible, and it was a very hard decision. So, but we're very excited to have Connie and Sarah joining us at our next Board of Health meeting. Also attended the 2026 Race Dialogue conversation. And after that, swooped over down to Tenino for the town hall with Sheriff Sanders, Mayor Watterson, and Commissioner Fournier and Commissioner Menser. Attended the Legislative Steering Committee retreat planning meeting. That's going to be coming up in May, where we're going to be setting up the priorities for our next 2 years for the Washington State Association of Counties. Looking forward to those. Those are usually very hard conversations, and trying to hone down several county priorities into a couple of them to continue and moving forward. And then in terms of kind of themes and different touch points with community and constituents, it's been a lot about legislative session, a debrief, Evergreen Pool, the Timberland Regional Library, ag and meat processing, and of course the docket. So that's my update.
Attended the EMS council meeting where we got a presentation from retired Lacey Fire Chief Steve Brooks, where he was talking about the community survey that they'll be conducting throughout the year. And we had a lot of high-level discussion about things that could be included in the survey and planning. Went to the regional FFA speaking competition and judged a number of students. And as always, it's really impressive. The youth that participate in that are like absolutely excellent public speakers. It's always impressive. As was mentioned, I attended the Thurston Conservation District Meat Processing Podcast. It's not the meat processing podcast, it's their podcast, and we talked about meat processing. Had a meeting with State Rep Stephanie Bernard. Talked about with Ashley Arai from CPED, and we talked about our efforts with the less restrictive alternatives scenario that came up a couple of years ago with DSHS and putting sexually violent predators in LRAs throughout the state, and how we addressed some of those issues. Attended the steady meeting. It was held in Yelm. It was a good meeting. Really always enjoy those. Tenino Town Hall, as was mentioned, had a couple meetings with the sheriff, and went to the board retreat, which I thought was time well spent with all of you fine individuals. I did a welcome ceremony kind of speech at the Economic Development Commission's FIFA event for all the local businesses that are looking to participate in the FIFA fan zone. It was well attended. There was probably around 35, 40 folks that attended from the business community to learn about how they can participate in the fan zone. Attended the Tenino Chamber meeting along with Public Works staff and Ashley Arai from CPED, where we talked about all the things that the county is doing in South Thurston County and the county in general. And then also, as I attended the Board of Health special meeting, but that was briefed.
Commissioner Grant.
Yep, I, along with some others, attended the Build It Breakfast for Rebuilding Together. Had a Transportation Policy Board agenda setting meeting, attended the 911 Advisory Committee meeting, the National Association of Counties Rural Action Caucus meeting. Met with a local provider to support a launch of a new behavioral health provider forum that's happening, and they're going to have their first meeting this Thursday. Attended the Pac Mountain Workforce Development Council Audit Exit Conference, the BHO Governing Board meeting with Commissioner Mejia, Public Rights Project meeting. Had a meeting today with the Yelm Industrial, we called it the Yelm Industrial Development meeting, but with the Port of Olympia and with Yelm to start talking about what that might look like in the future, to be partnering with the port. And met with Senator Patty Murray's office. And last week I spent in Las Vegas at something called the National Association of Workforce Boards Conference, which is really a gathering where we talk about strengthening our workforce system. And, you know, workforce boards like the Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council sit at the center of our local economy. You know, they're designed to bring business, education, and government together to ensure that people can access good jobs and employers can find the talent that they need. At the national level, the National Association reinforces that workforce systems are not just programs, they're infrastructure that are vital to economic mobility. And some of the things that I took away from that were that reentry, for those who don't know what reentry is, it's when someone's coming out of incarceration and needs access to a viable job. Reentry works when workforce is part of it. When people leaving incarceration have access to jobs and training, recidivism goes down and communities are safer. That was a big topic, a big part of the way that we talked about things at the workforce at the national level. And then we talked about we must align training with real jobs, and that means investing in apprenticeships, career training, strong employer partnerships. And I had an opportunity to meet and spend the week with the deputy director of our local association on construction trades. And what we know right now is that we have in this community, in Washington State, we have almost 10,000 people in the construction trades without work right now. And so we must work on economic drivers that will actually bring those jobs back home. And the other thing that we talked about was federal workforce funding and how important it is that the Washington Investment Opportunities Act that we, which is called WIOA, that funding, we continue to advocate and we continue to work to make sure that that funding stays a crucial part of our local workforce boards. That funding is directly associated to youth programs, to job training, and helping people overcome barriers to employment. So you know, I really was grateful for the opportunity that I had to connect with the other people that went down there. And then we got to do some really fun things while we were down there as well. So the other thing that happened over the last few weeks is that, you know, I'm honored to share that I was appointed to the American Addiction Recovery Association Board of Governors as the local co-chair of government policy. And I just want to mention that that association's mission is to save lives, to restore families, and to strengthen communities by eliminating stigma and elevating recovery. So in that role, I'm going to work with leaders across the country to shape local government policy that supports treatment, recovery, and dignity-centered systems of care. And this really matters to families and communities and anyone impacted by addiction. The other really cool thing about that is there's something called the Purple Project. And the Purple Project is about working with sports teams to create September as a month similar to October, when all of our sports teams wear pink on their shoes and for breast cancer awareness. And we go through the month of October and encourage people to talk about breast cancer awareness. In September, we'll be working with sports teams locally and across the nation. Right now, South Carolina, different colleges are doing it, did it this year, but we'll be working to bring purple ribbons to sports teams to elevate recovery. So we'll be doing that as part of the work we're doing.
Congratulations, that's pretty
Thanks.
awesome.
And that's my report.
All right, Commissioner Claus.
All right, thank you. So I have had a number of constituent meetings over the last few weeks, mostly surrounding some public issues such as the use of AI cameras around the state, and people have concerns about AI cameras in Thurston County. I've also talked to constituents who have concerns about what's going on with the Timberland Regional Library, so that's been an ongoing conversation with community members, and even staff have helped facilitate some conversations with TRL, former staff, and our Board of Trustee members, so that's an ongoing conversation as well. I would like to also acknowledge that today is Transgender Day of Visibility. This is a chance to recognize the humanity, resilience, and contributions of our transgender community members, and just to say clearly that everyone deserves to live openly, safely, and with dignity in our community. Transgender people have always been part of our communities, leading in civil rights movements, shaping art and culture, and showing up every day as workers, parents, neighbors, and leaders. from leaders like Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera to people right here in our own community. And just to be completely honest, this moment feels especially critical right now. The kind of rhetoric and comments that we're seeing even locally are a reminder that visibility still comes with risk, and that's why this matters. There are real concrete ways that we can show up. We can use people's correct names and pronouns. We can speak up when we hear harmful or dehumanizing language, and we can make sure the spaces that we are part of, including our workplace, our schools, and our communities, are places where people feel safe and respected. And that's something each of us have a role in and something that I take very seriously, so I wanted to acknowledge that today. Over the last few weeks, I also attended my executive aide attended the Public Rights Project Multi-City Group meeting while we were doing our board retreat. And in this meeting, they discussed the rapid expansion of immigration detention centers and the legal policy and community strategies that local governments can use to push back. That is a meeting, I believe, that happens bi-weekly. Public Rights Project is a new organization I just found out about a few weeks ago, and they do a lot of really great work advocating for civil rights and democracy issues for local elected officials. Very helpful group, so I'm excited to get more involved with them. Let's see, I also, oh, this one's exciting. I'm really excited about this one. Me and my executive aide participated in a tour with the Capitol Land Trust of the Blooms Preserve to see Oregon spotted frog habitat. And it's their spawning season right now, so we got to see some egg clusters while we were out there. We also caught a gardener snake and put it back after we took pictures with it. I wanted to kind of touch on what this property is. It's located in the Black River watershed. Blooms Preserve contains 142 acres and 4,300 feet of Blooms Ditch and its feeders, which provides habitat for coho salmon, steelhead, sea run, cutthroat trout, Olympic mud minnow, and Oregon spotted frog, which is the best animal in Thurston County. The property is home to a stand of forest-rich and native plant diversity and is funded by several community partners, including the Washington Salmon Recovery Funding Board, Thurston County Conservation Futures, Black Hills Audubon Society, and more. This was a really awesome opportunity to learn about the conservation efforts and ongoing habitat restoration work. We discussed the Capitol Land Trust work to protect the Oregon spotted frog, including challenges that the species faces and the strategies being used to support population recovery. We also had the opportunity, like I said, to see their breeding grounds firsthand and learn how the land is being carefully managed to maintain a healthy wetland ecosystem. And the tour provided a better understanding of how local conservation efforts directly impact endangered species and long-term environmental sustainability. And we had to wear waders because the water was waist high, which was very fun. So it was an awesome opportunity, and thank you to the Capitol Land Trust for allowing me to do that. And I'm also looking forward to going out with the Thurston Conservation District in the future to see other projects happening, and I'm super excited about that. I also attended a South Sound Sustainability and Climate Coordination call with the Evergreen Sustainability Campus Office at Evergreen State College. And we discussed ongoing climate coordination efforts across the South Sound region and shared updates from local governments, nonprofits, and community organizations. One major highlight that everybody was very excited about was the passage of the Home Energy Score Ordinance in Thurston County and Olympia, along with discussion of the impacts and the community engagement around that topic. We also discussed current programs like low-income solar projects, HEAL grants, and extreme heat education efforts. The last thing was I also attended the Affordable Homes Stable Communities 2026 Housing Convening by Local Progress up in Seattle. Commissioner Mejia mentioned that. She was there as well. It was a really good opportunity to tour some of the affordable housing projects in Seattle and see what they're doing in King County. And we had representatives from all around the country. We had city council members from Detroit, New York, and all kinds of places around the country. And we also had, what was really impactful was a panel related to immigration enforcement around the country. And we had 3 representatives, one from Minnesota, Minneapolis, Chicago, and Detroit. And so learning what's happening in those communities and the responses that local government officials are taking to push back and, you know, figure out how to navigate those situations. It was a very, very, it was a very emotional conversation that we had as well. It was definitely really hard to hear what's happening directly from the people who are impacted and who are fighting back. So that was a really touching and impactful presentation. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. So I had a bunch of all-day meetings for various things. Salmon Recovery Council is an all-day meeting. State Building Code Council is an all-day meeting. Timber Counties Caucus with Wasac is a 2/3 of a day meeting. The board advance and follow-up sessions was lengthy. Attended the Tenino Town Hall with Commissioner Fournier. It was it was over 2 hours with another hour of discussion after the town hall. Well-attended and really interesting discussion. I was there to listen because we had the former mayor of Tenino and the sheriff and the mayor of Tenino. So I was really there to hear community concerns, but I think we got a good sense of where folks are at. So that was really useful. Steady meeting out in Yelm. The preparation for the lot is having a retreat tomorrow. So I've been working on the preparation for that as president of that board. And then community events, Sierra Club South Sound meeting, Rebuilding Together breakfast. The Tumwater Chamber had a small business showcase, and that was really cool. And then lots of constituent meetings recently relating to everything from the library, charter government, Summit Lake water levels, the Evergreen Pool, Rocky Prairie activity, you name it. There's been a lot going on with constituents, and I've been trying to catch up on that. So spent a lot of time doing all of that. We're having no board meeting. I'm looking at the county manager and assistant county managers. Next week, we're not having a typical meeting, it being spring break, and we're have commissioners that are otherwise engaged. And so the next board meeting is
April 21st.
April 21st. So just highlighting that there's a little bit of a break here in terms of board meetings, although we'll obviously be doing various things and still working and meeting with clients and our constituents. So is there anything else for the good order? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.